He once broke that book out to talk about the Superdome. And the first pro wrestling event at the Superdome happened on July 17th, 1976,
Yeah.
when Leroy McGurk was still running the city with Bill Watts as his booker and partner. Watts, this according to Dave Meltzer here, spearheaded going into the Superdome, a move that most thought he was nuts to try. New Orleans was not known as a good wrestling market, and it's not like they were frequently selling out the arenas.
Right.
Watts felt, and correctly so, that if he put on a loaded show, the likes of which people in the city had never seen, the lure of wrestling at the Superdome would draw people who would normally never attend. In many ways, this was the beginning of the concept of quarterly supercards. Now, I just want to put into context what Dave is writing there. This was the beginning of the concept of quarterly supercards. Now, we know in 1983, again, remember, this is 1976. In 1983, around Thanksgiving, Jim Crockett Promotions is going to run Starrcade, and that's like the quote unquote first mega show, or at least the one that people are talking about with closed circuit and sort of the precursor for pay per view.
Mm-hmm.
But when the WWF decides in 1988 to spin off and not just do a WrestleMania, but to actually do a SummerSlam and a Survivor Series, and they followed up with a Royal Rumble, those became those big four quarterly events. That's more than 10 years after this. So Cowboy was a real innovator here and somebody who's rolling the dice in a big way. You were there for some of this. What do you remember about the Cowboys' idea to, if you build it, they will come? Man, let's run the Superdome.
Yeah, he was very motivated. He thought that the concept would work, and it did. I was not at the first big event, but I remember the poster. The window poster was very colorful. They had just adorned the town with all these posters. They had a low end ticket so that it didn't keep anybody from coming if they chose to, at least from the price of the tickets. Uh, I think it is like $76,000, which sounds like nothing now, but then it was a lot. It was an awful lot of money, and of course, with that comes the expectation that you're going to get this biggest payoff you ever got. And for some guys, that may have been true. For others, it wasn't. And for those that it wasn't, it caused a little bit of dissension. And Michael Hayes this very day believes that he and the Freebirds got screwed on a big payoff when they worked with Dog. And I shall get a kick out of, because if I can bring it up somehow, he'll take it. He'll run with the story. It's pretty cool. So with great success comes great expectation.
That's right.
And when you're paying on this discretionary income, so in other words, the discretion of the paymaster, i.e., Cowboy, could be put in question because there wasn't a formula, so to speak, as to how you arrive at a payoff. It was Cowboy's judgment based on the house and the available money and the talent pool. So again, with great success comes great expectation, and some guys, after all these years, still believe that they got shorted on the payoff. But uh, that's not a new concept in pro wrestling. Guys think they got shorted a little bit on the payoff. It happens more often than not, and it's kind of expected, quite frankly. So, but he was shooting for the stars there, and the other thing about that is that he knew that if we had some success, that it would uh, maybe motivate talents who are moving from territory to territory to come in and get booked in Mid South, and get a run there. So it had a lot of advantages. It had some disadvantages that some might not think about, but he had a hand-picked roster,
Yep.
a lot of really good workers, and so that was kind of how the whole foundation was built, on talented workers who were physical, good psychologists, and it was just great. I learned so much there. I would never have been an EVP of WWE or anything along the lines of success I had in talent relations, et cetera, if I had not first worked for Cowboy in Mid-South. I got my foundation there, and sitting at his side, hearing him talk to talents, hearing him talk to other promoters, was really good. I sat in a conversation with him one time with a noted NWA promoter who was called to represent the other promoters to tell Cowboy that having a black booker, Ernie Ladd, and having a black top babyface in JYD was going to kill the business. It's going to kill it, because in that era, you had if you had blacks on the card, it was like one. So and that's stupid. So I remember Cowboy telling the guy, I said, I green is my favorite color. Green.
There you go.
And these guys are selling tickets. So it was, and that's how he handled it. And he didn't change his philosophy. He didn't replace Ernie. JYD walked eventually. So it was pretty cool. It was really. I look back so many times and what I learned on what day and how I interpreted what he did is pretty cool. So I owe Cowboy a lot for that. It was different than me sitting here in a beachside condo in Jacksonville Beach to living in a trailer house in eastern Oklahoma.
Well, they all showed up for that first Superdome show. We talked about it, 1976, man. 17,000 fans were there to see Terry Funk retain his NWA World title against the Cowboy. It was a doctor stoppage because Watts was bleeding too badly to continue. It was also a blindfold match between Dick Murdoch and Killer Carl Cox. 4 matches deep, headline attractions as far as that goes. Andre the Giant and Buck Robley taking on Ken Patera and Bruiser Bob Sweetan.
What a
Dick
prick.
Bruiser going to a double DQ with Abdullah the Butcher. It's a pretty loaded card, and man, fans showed up. They wanted to see that NWA World title match. They wanted to see Andre the Giant and Abdullah the Butcher. 17,000 fans. You thought it was maybe a $76,000 house. Using the handy dandy inflation calculator these days, that would mean $407,000.
Wow.
They're going to come back on July 22nd, 1978, and have 23,800 fans. And Meltzer would say that set what was believed to be the all-time indoor gate record for pro wrestling, $142,675 for a show that was headlined by Ray Candy beating Ernie Ladd in a cage match. The other top promoted matches were the North American champion Paul Orndorff beating Bruiser Brody and Dusty Rhodes wrestling superstar Billy Graham. A loaded card, but again, think about that main event. It's Ray Candy and Ernie Ladd in a cage match. Man, Ray Candy's a guy we don't hear nearly enough about. What can you tell us about Ray Candy?
Big guy, African-American gentleman, nice fella. But he had a good program with Ernie. Ernie wanted to make Ray. And Ernie has looked at the whole lay of the land. And in Louisiana and Mississippi, how you catered to the black fan was important. And there were a lot of African Americans in that region of the country. So Ernie had an angle that would appeal to those people very prominently, and they turned out. If you said today, well, we're going to headline this big dome show with Ernie and Ray Candy, people might, Ray Candy. Ernie I could see, but Ray Candy, I don't get that. But Ernie got him ready. Ernie's TV time and Ray Candy's how he was used on Mid-South television. A big, strong black man, and Ernie could talk him into the building. There's a shot of Ray Candy, nice man, and a big fella, big athletic guy, real high pitched voice. I remember that, but he was a nice man, and I enjoyed being around those guys. they were all excited about what could be, and they all probably knew, Connie, that they're going to get their biggest payoff in their careers. A lot of them, some not maybe, but most are expecting the record payoff for them on this show. So everybody was in a pretty good mood, and it was always good. New Orleans is always great. Cowboy had his restaurants he'd like to go to, and I got to tag along, which is always nice. Get a free meal, good meal, and listen, and listening to Cowboy made me a better a better hand, for lack of a better term, in wrestling.